Hello students, today we will discuss organizational buying behavior and we will first understand what are business markets and how do business markets they differ from the consumer markets. We will also take characteristics of organizational buying and their contrast with the consumer markets. Next we will discuss the stages in organizational buying process. We will consider some of the buying situations, also systems, buying and selling, and we will discuss a case of the buying center, participants in business buying process. There are things like initiators, users, influencers, deciders, so on and so forth. So we will examine who are these people, who are the key participants in the business buying behavior. Also, what are the major influences on business behavior in terms of environmental factors, organizational factors, interpersonal factors, individual factors? I will explain all these factors to you, and some of the companies' purchasing orientation, which are buying orientation, procurement orientation, supply management, these aspects we will briefly touch upon. And last but not the least, we will discuss in very discuss very briefly the institutional and government markets. Let us start with the basic question as to what is a business market. Actually, a business market consists of all organizations, all companies that acquire goods or services which are used in production of other products and services. Once again, the organizations buy goods or services so that these goods or services can be used in the production of other products or other services, and then the final products and the final services are sold, rented, or supplies to others. To give you an example, if I want to buy a car and I can afford a car which is worth 15 lakh rupees and my mind is set on buying Toyota Yaris, for example. So I will use the car for my own purpose. I am paying for the car. So I will go because I have already done my research on Toyota Yaris and it has become a car that I want to acquire. I will go and acquire it. I don't have to ask anybody else. The money is mine, the dream is mine, the decision is mine. But contrast this with a situation that I have I am the owner of a cab services and my company provides small cabs, small cars at affordable rentals. So in such a scenario, I will look for a product which fits into my business offering. So I may not go for Toyota Yaris, which is a petrol driven car. I would like to go for a small car, maybe which runs on which and it has to run on CNG, because if I am operating a cab service in Delhi and NCR, I cannot use a cab that uses diesel, and a petrol car will in any case not be economical for me. So I cannot purchase a Toyota Yaris if I am running a cab service which promises to provide taxi faring or cab or faring service, or which provides which promises to provide a cab service at affordable rates. I'll have to go for some small cars, and the cars have to be driven by CNG. So this is business market. So if I am representing a business buyer who wants to buy, let us say, 25 cars, which are small cars, affordable cars, and which run on CNG. This is the business market. Earlier, it was the consumer market. When I wanted a Toyota Yaris, it was my decision, and I was the one who would have enjoyed that car. So that was the consumer market. This is the business market. To give another example of business market is, if we know of mandis. Mandis are the agriculture produce marketing companies, APMC mandis, which are there in major districts. So these APMCs, they buy wheat, paddy, and other stuff from the farmers. So they don't eat all that wheat and paddy themselves, but they resell it to wholesalers, and wholesalers in turn sell it to the grocery shops and supermarkets, and then from that channel it comes to our food table. Okay, so the APMCs are a business market. Okay, sometimes a company like ITC, which makes Ashirwad Atta, the biggest atta brand in the country, or Shakti Bhu or Rajesh Atta, when they buy wheat from the farmers, they contract, they sign contracts with large farmers that they will buy directly from them. They are also they are also representing business market. Okay, but when I am going to buy wheat flour from a shopkeeper, I am not a business market. This is consumer business. Okay, so consumer business is different from a business market or organizational business. So what is organizational buying? Organizational buying is a decision making process by which organizations buy products. And to buy products, big organizations, formal organizations, even informal organizations, they first establish the need to buy a product or a service. So first is establishment of need, then they identify what are the alternative availables, then they evaluate each alternative, and then they choose between alternative brands and suppliers. Once again, organizational buying is the decision making process by which organizations, they establish the need for product and services to be purchased. They identify, evaluate, and choose between alternative brand and suppliers. I hope you have understood what is meant by a business market and what is meant by organizational buying. There are many differences between the characteristics of organizational buying when we compare it to consumer buying. So, organizational market is very different from the consumer market. So I've listed some points which I would like to explain in brief. Number one is, in case of organizational buying, there are fewer buyers as compared to the consumers. For example, if we take the example of any product which is consumed in every household. So how many households? India is a population of 1.3 crore rupees, 1.3 crore people. So the consumer, everybody consumes some product. So everybody consumes wheat flour, or let us say rice or lentil, or condiments or spices. So it's a big, huge buyer. Compared to that, industrial buying or organizational buying, there are very few buyers. Okay. Second important characteristic of organizational buying is that the size of transaction is big. So if a company, if a hotel wants to buy, let us say, a branded variety of rice, so it will buy in huge quantity when you compare it to what a household of five will buy. So the transaction is big and the geography is small. Let us take the case of Noida. So let us say in Noida there are 15 hotels which have rooms of 100 and above. So the geography is very small, and these hotels, if they buy a branded variety of rice, so transactions are big and in a very small geography. So there are only 10 places to be visited. For example, if there is a seller which is targeting these 10 organizations, these 10 large hotels. But contrast this, if the same seller also has a product in smaller packs for the consumers, then it's spread all over Noida. Every household, or at least a household of certain minimum income would be his target market. Number three is, in case of organizational buying, there is a very close supplier customer relationship. Very close supplier customer relationship. So let's even take the case of a laptop seller. So a large laptop seller, if he has a very big organization that buys in bulk, so he has a very close relationship with his buyer. So he visits them perhaps, once in 15 days or once every month. But when it comes to single buyers of laptops, so a seller may not visit them even once. They may come to his store to buy, or they may buy online. So there is very close supplier customer relationship. Fourth point is that customization is easy for seller. What is meant by customization? So you may have a product which may be packed in certain packs. So you sell a product, let us say in a 10 kg pack and a 50 kg pack. Okay, but if you have a customer, if you have an organizational customer who wants you to sell, let me give an example of the case of uh, let me take the case of a chemical. So you also sell chemicals in small packs for the consumer market, but you have large customer who buys it. This is an organizational customer who also buys it, and he wants you to supply it to him in 210-liter barrels or drums. So, but it is easy for seller. He can procure empty drums and pack it. Why? And he can pass on the cost to the customer. Why? Because it's his big organizational customer, and he can easily customize. Okay. Then fifth point is that the organizational buyer, the geographically they are concentrated in one area. Let us take the case of uh, like in Western UP, in Muzaffarnagar, the Western UP belt, there are a lot of steel plants. There are a lot of steel plants in Western UP. A lot of organizational buying activity of raw material happens for the steel plants in this area. So geographically, they are concentrated. Sixth important point is an organizational buying is a derived demand. What is meant by derived demand? For example, if you are selling, let us say, a particular input which is used in a steel plant, you will be able to sell it only if the factory is producing corresponding amount of output. Suppose for some reason the factory closes down, then during that period you may not be able to supply your material to that factory, because it is a derived demand. The demand of your product depends upon the demand of the final product that goes out of this factory. So, fluctuation could be there if a factory is closed. Seventh point is that the demand is inelastic, because you get into a contract, a long-term contract, and uh, if you are able to convince inelasticity, because the demand, the production cycle is more or less decided. So you know that in the next 6 months, the factory will work at a certain level, and after that, they will have a planned shutdown for 15 days. And you cannot change your production plans very frequently. So you know the demand of your product, which will go into that factory, will be consistent. The eighth point is that, of course, the purchasing of an organization is much more professional. There are no impulse purchases. Ninth point is that there are several buying influences. In case of consumer market, there could be different buying influences, but the person who's buying for its own consumption, he decides eventually. So, if I want to drink a Coke, so what goes into my buying that brand could be a variety of reasons, but I am the only one who's influencing the decision to buy the Coke. In case of an organization, there are different influences. We will study these influences in greater detail. It is possible that the production team is happy with a particular kind of a consumable which they are buying, but the finance team says that they have done a study and the same consumable of the same quality is available elsewhere at a cheaper price. So, finance could influence the buying. It's not just the user department in the production which is deciding upon what to buy. Tenth point is that if a seller is well entrenched in an organization, it is very difficult to dislodge that seller. You have to make multiple calls, sales calls. You have to make multiple presentations. So it is very tough to replace an existing supplier. Okay. 11th point is that there is direct repurchasing. So there is nobody between the seller and the buyer, an industrial buyer. Okay. Sometimes there could be a conversing agent or something, but largely it's directly the company supplies. For example, uh, an an aircraft manufacturer supplies directly to the airlines. Okay. Boeing is supplying directly to Air India or Jet, or Jet is closed now to Indigo or to Air Asia. Okay. 12th point is reciprocity. Reciprocity means, okay, if I am a seller and I am supplying to an organizational buyer, and if organizational buyer also has something to sell, he can also influence me. Okay, I am buying your product, so you please use me. To give you an example, uh, a company, let us say a company which is supplying to a telecom company. So telecom company, some mobile sets. Okay, so the mobile company, the telecom company can say, okay, please, uh, you tell your key users in your company to use my services. So reciprocity, reciprocity. And the last point is that in case of organizational buying, there are a lot of financing options which are there. There are leasing options, there are financing options. The availability of credit sometimes is a key influence. So these are some of the characteristics of organization buying that are in contrast with the consumer market. Just like there are stages in the consumer buying behavior, there are stages in organizational buying process. Let us take the case of a large store which sells groceries and daily need products in a neighborhood, and that store is spread over two floors, the ground floor and the first floor. The store is doing quite well, and people patronize the store because the prices are competitive, and almost all products which pertain to grocery or confectionery or daily need are available at the store. The staff is good and the store is doing well. But a new store has come in the neighborhood which stocks similar products, and which is also spread over two stories, but they have a lift. So customers of the new store don't have to climb stairs to go to the first floor. So now the problem. So this old store which we are talking about, it recognizes a problem that the customer, that they also need to provide a lift, a small lift within their store. So the first step in the organizational buying behavior, buying process is problem recognition. Okay, so they need a lift is the problem area. The second step is they will list out general need description. Okay, so that they will write that they will need a lift. They will need a lift, but the lift, it should not occupy so much space that they have to sacrifice the display area of their store, because then it would be counterproductive. Okay, so they will list down what is, they know the problem, that they don't have a lift and people and the customers need to climb the stairs. This is the problem area. So in general need description they will mention that they need a lift which will not be at the cost of the existing space, or even if, because some space, uh, some of the existing storage space will be displaced by the space which will be occupied by the lift. They will they will note it down. Perhaps they will call an architect to help them out, and then with the help of the architect, or with the help of a civil engineer, they will list out the product specification. Okay, they need a lift which should have this dimensions. This must be the load bearing capacity or the lift. Somebody will also do a project value analysis. Okay, if we buy a lift, it will cost so many rupees, and this, the payback period for the lift is so many years. Perhaps because there is a lift, it will lead to perhaps more sales, or at least the lift will ensure that customers are not lost to the new store. So what is the value? What is the value which the lift will add in terms of adding new customers or stopping the loss of customers? So all these analysis will be given, but most importantly, the product specification will have to be worked on in terms of dimension and in terms of the load carrying capacity of the lift. Okay. The next step or the fourth step will be the search for suppliers. They will check, the store management will check on the, or the ownership will check on the internet. They will maybe go to some other stores which are of the similar nature and same size and see what kind of lifts are installed there. The lifts have been installed by which companies. Are they good? Perhaps they will talk to some customers of the other stores. So search for suppliers will begin, and the next stage is they will solicit proposals. They will write to the suppliers, tell them this is what is needed. Perhaps some they will do a limited tender or whatever, but they will solicit proposals from the suppliers. The sixth step is they will zero in on a supplier. The supplier selection will be done. Whichever supplier is able to meet their needs will be given an opportunity to supply the lift. Of course, suppliers will come, they will make a presentation to the management of the store. A selection process will be carried out. And the seventh part is that the order will be placed. A purchase order will be placed, the purchase conditions will be specified, a contract will be signed, which will include who will maintain the lift, who will provide after sale service, who will provide the routine maintenance of the lift. If there is a breakdown, what is the guarantee that the parts which are needed for replacement are there with the supplier? So everything will be mentioned in the contract. And the last is eighth is the periodical performance review. The store management will see the review of uh, they will review the performance of the new lift. How has it impacted upon upon sales? Are customers now feeling good about it? They don't have to climb the stairs. Maybe the customers will talk to them, say, okay, good that you provided the lift. Okay, so performance review of the lift will be done. Okay, so these are, by giving you an example of a lift which has been installed in a store. I have tried to explain to you the stages in organizational buying process. The performance review part is very important, because suppose there is a large industrial unit which is buying consumable from a particular supplier. They will continue to review the performance. How do these consumables compare when compared to other brands? So if you are a car manufacturers and you are ordering braking systems from, let us say, supplier X, then you would like to review their performance, and maybe you may want to give them some suggestions on changing the product, or maybe you would like to try out some other supplier. So performance review is very important in the organizational buying process. I hope you have understood it very well, the various stages in the organizational buying process. In industrial buying, there are three types of situations if we want to look at: straight rebuy, modified rebuy, and new task. Let me explain to you. Straight rebuy is a situation when the purchase department, it reorders on a regular basis. The buyer has chosen a supplier and it already has signed a rate contract or something, and the buyer's purchasing department just keeps on issuing a purchase order, and the supplier or the seller meets that requirement. This is called straight rebuy. To give you an example of a straight rebuy, if I am an organization that requires, let us say, 5 cabs every day for my people, okay, so I have already tied up with a company, let us say XYZ taxi service, and we have already negotiated a rate which is rupee per kilometer. and all that my purchasing department has to do is has to tell the company, okay, I need a cab at this place for this person, and the cab company will supply the cab. And they know fairly well, the cab service, the cab suppliers, they know fairly well that this organization requires 5 to 6 cabs every day, so there is no problem. The number of decisions which the buyer has to take are very few, because there is no decision really. I have already signed up a contract, and all I am doing is I am calling up the cab service and telling them, okay, I need 5 cabs, one cab at this time, second cab, and straight rebuy. The second kind of a buying situation is modified rebuy. I realize as a buyer that I am giving committed business to this cab supplier of almost 5 cabs every day for 25 days in a month. Okay, so 5 into 25, 125 cabs rides I am assuring the supplier every month. So I am in a position perhaps to negotiate a better deal for my company. I can tell, I can ask the supplier XYZ taxi company to please come and have another round of discussion with me, so that we have a relook at what our supplier is offering to us, modified rebuy. In such a process, I can also call other suppliers. So existing supplier will become nervous. I can tell him that, okay, why should I pay you the normal prices for each and which you are charging from other customers who are not giving you this much volume of business? I am giving you a sizable volume of business. I am giving you a business of 5 cars, 5 cabs every day. So perhaps we need renegotiate, and maybe you need to give me a proposal wherein you say that irrespective of the number of kilometers travel, you will charge this much amount for a cab, whether the cab is used or it is not used, something like that. So this is modified rebuy. It will make the in supplier or the existing supplier nervous, and this will be an opportunity for the other suppliers to sneak into my organization. Third is new task. New task is when the purchaser is buying a product or the service for the first time. So the stages in the new task buying is, first of all, the buyer develops awareness of the products or the services. Then he will develop an interest in some of them. He will evaluate all the offerings in the market, and the buyer will do trial with some of the companies, and finally adoption, or he will sign a contract with one company or two company. This is new task. So the during the new task situation, the marketers or this or the people who are offering that particular service, it is their greatest opportunity, isn't it? And it is also a greatest challenge. So some companies will use their ace salespeople, sales force, to solicit the new task situation, to get a new business. So I have explained to you new task, modified rebuy, and straight rebuy. These are three buying situations for a company. I want to discuss here systems buying and selling. This is the interesting concept. Systems buying is said to happen when a business buyer he relies upon one seller to provide complete solution. To give you an example, I am an automobile manufacturer, and I am looking for someone who can supply me the steering system. So like we have Sona steerings. Okay, he will provide me the complete steering wheel solution. Otherwise, I cannot produce steering in house. My core competence is upon engine and assembly of other parts and manufacturing and quality control. So manufacturing steering system is given to an expert supplier who has mastery over this. To give you another example, I am a motorcycle manufacturer, but I don't manufacture tires myself. I sign a bulk contract with one, two, or three. tire suppliers, I assure them that because I produce 1 lakh motorcycles in a month. I'm just taking a figure, it's a hypothetical figure. And in 1 year, I manufacture 12 lakh motorcycles or 1.2 million motorcycles. I am assuring an order of 1.2 million multiplied by 2.4 million tires to a supplier. I could split this order into one supplier, two supplier, or three supplier. I am buying, but I am giving the entire, I'm outsourcing the tire supply to one or two manufacturers. So this is systems buying. I could sometimes you can even do stuff like that. If I'm an organization and I need, let us say, 6 printers in my organization, heavy duty printers. But then when you buy printers, then you need to maintain those printers. So nowadays, companies like Canon or companies like HP, uh, they say you give us maintenance, repair, and operating assignment of printers, MRO. We will provide the printer at your organization. We will maintain it, we will repair it, and we will operate it for you, because any consumable which is needed, we will provide it. If the ink is needed, we will provide it. If a cartridge is needed, we will provide it. You have to just provide the papers. The ownership of the printers, the heavy duty printers, will rest with the supplier, and they will charge us based upon the number of pages which we will print. And there is a counter in every printer which can tell the supplier how many papers were printed from this machine, and will they charge us on this basis. This is called systems contracting. It helps the buyer because it lowers the cost of inventory, because the inventory belongs to the seller. This also leads to reduced time in supplier selection, and it also protects the price. This is a key strategy for large scale industrial products. So this is what is meant by systems buying and selling. As is evident that in a business buying process, there is no single participant. There are many participants. So let's call the unit which is responsible for buying as a business as a buying center. So buying center is composed of all individuals and groups who participate in the decision making process, and they may share some goals and risks arriving from their decisions. First, there are many participants in the buying center. First is initiators. Initiators are those people who request that something be purchased. So generally, there could be a user department which can say, okay, I need this facility. Somebody in the shop floor can say, we need to add one more conveyor belt in the plant. Initiator. Normally, initiators are the guys who are also users, or they're senior people among users. So users are those who will use the product or services. The factory workers will use the services of the conveyor. Okay, isn't it? And they will talk to their floor management, who are initiators, who will give the request that we need to add one more conveyor line in the shop floor. Then there are influencers who influence buying decision. Okay, influencers could be the maintenance guys, or the engineering people, the design team, which will define the specification of the conveyor. They will provide information, they will suggest alternatives. Then there are deciders and approvers. Deciders will be the senior management team of engineers or the managers, okay, who will decide on the final requirement, final specification of the product. They will also decide on the supplier, who will be the supplier. Okay, they may have a process of evaluating the supplier. These are deciders, professional group of peoples. And then there would be an approving team, approvers are the top management people who will authorize the proposed action. Okay, So sometimes deciders and approvers may be same, but mostly approvers are senior management people, those who are authorized to take a financial decision. Okay, and then there are buyers. Buyers are people who have the formal authority to select the supplier. So once the it is also possible that the approver has approved that okay, you can buy the product from any of the three suppliers. So they will give it to buyers. Okay, you decide finally, negotiate further the price, and very important participant in the business buying process are gatekeepers. Gatekeepers who are the people who have the power to prevent sellers, gatekeepers, or they can prevent key critical information from reaching the buying center. See, the every organization has a formal organization and there is an informal organization. Uh, there are people who may not be involved in a decision making, but they may have some interest in a product being bought or a supplier being replaced. These are gatekeepers. Okay. Sometimes a finance person may be a gatekeeper. He will, the finance head may say that it is okay, but we don't have an approved budget to buy such and such facilities, isn't it? So a buying center includes many participants, and a bigger the organization, more the number of people. Okay, so what is the takeaway for the sellers is sellers try to concentrate on reaching the key people who are influencers. Okay, who are influencers, and it's a very complex process. It's a very complex process and time consuming process before a purchase order is finally issued by the organization that is buying a product or a service. Let me explain to you what are the major influences on a business buyer in terms of what impacts their decision making process. This can be classified into four factors: environmental factors, organizational factors, interpersonal factors, and individual factors. Let us take environmental factors first. Environmental factors, as it suggests, they are ingrained in the environment of a particular region of or a particular country or a particular state. And for example, level of demand. Suppose the demand for the final product is low. There is very little a business marketer can do to sell more of his product to a company which is producing a product where the final demand is low. So if the demand of the cars are going down, if there is very little demand for the car because of the pandemic, so a company which is supplying to that car company steering systems or braking systems, it has no possibility of doing a good business because the final product is not getting sold. So level of demand is an environmental factor. So in case of environmental factors like economic outlook, interest rate, or rate of technology change, there is very little a supplier can do except it can fight for a greater market share. Let us say the demand for cars is there, but it is down by 20%. And the supplier of tire, he has he is supplying 50% of the requirement of that car company. So, but the overall demand is going down, so his demand will also go down. His supply will also go down. But what he can do is he can try to sell more aggressively and sell more, increases market share and sell more than other competing brands of tires who are supplying to that car manufacturer. This is at the best what a tire supplier can do. Second, let us take interpersonal factors. Interpersonal factors, because the buying center, it has several participants and they may have different interests, different levels of authority. They may be at a different status level. Their element of empathy may differ. So all these factors can impact the buying decision. Buying decision. If there is a software company which is wanting to sell to an existing client an updated version of the software, an updated version, but the person who are the decision makers in the client company may show no interest, because they will say we have just bought their software and now they have come up with the upgraded version of that software, so they should, we cannot buy it again, maybe they should just do it free, or they should just charge us a nominal fee for upgradation or a newer version. Okay, so and the interpersonal the interpersonal relationship between the buyer and the seller also also plays a part. The buying company or the client company may have a very positive attitude or a positive feeling towards a supplier, and sometimes the client company or the buying company may try to help a supplier also, and it may even try to encourage a supplier to come up with new product, new solutions, new services. So these are interpersonal factors. Then there are organizational factors. Organizational factors are, every organization has specific purchasing objectives. So maybe the objective could be to reduce the reduce the input cost by X%. This could be the objective of a company, and they may have certain policies, procedures in place. The organization structure of an organization also determines the buying behavior. For example, Indian Oil Corporation, which is a Navratna company, one of the best public sector companies in India and in the world, it has a very well defined procedure for buying crude oil. It may go into long term contract with some suppliers, or if it is doing spot buying, it may have uh, a set guideline as to how to go about doing spot buying. Who are the people, and who are the people involved in this, and what is their delegation, what are the powers enjoyed by each and every person who holds a particular position. So these are organizational factors. Sometimes the organizational structure can play a role in the business buying process. Some companies may have uh, very less number of people who participate in the buying. Some people, because of their largeness, because of their organizational structure, the buying process may be more complex, or it may be, it may not be a short process. It may be a long drawn process. And then there are individual factors. Individual factors, because each buyer carries his own motivations, personal motivations, perceptions, and preferences. And these are influenced by a person's age. For example, the buying decision of a younger buyer will be different, or it will be favorable towards buying new technology when you compare a buyer who is not so young. For example, a 75-year-old managing director may have a different attitude towards implementing new technology in his factory. When you compare that attitude with the attitude of a managing director who's only 35 or 40 years of age, the personality of buyers sometimes can also be reflected in the buying decisions. Some people may be willing to pay a higher price if they are very sure that investing in that capital item will lead to substantive savings in the years to come. So some people may be more worried about the net present value, and some people may not have this kind of a attitude towards buying. So environmental factors, interpersonal factors, individual factors, organizational factors, they all play a major role or a major influence on the business buyer. Do the organizations who are buying products or services have any purchasing orientation? Yes, they have. Business buyers, they buy goods and services to make money or to reduce operating cost or maybe to satisfy a social or legal obligation. It may be binding upon a company to hire the services of a income tax expert if it is if it wants to get some refund in income tax, okay? Or sometimes it may be legally binding upon a company to buy something. So if you run a factory and you are governed by the pollution board of that region or that locality, then it is legally binding upon you to file your pollution report or your environmental report, and to ensure that you meet all the norms, you may have to make some purchases, you may have to ensure that the level of effluents which you discharge is within the parameters. So you may have to make some changes in your factory layout, or you may have to buy new machines to ensure that you meet the environment and legal norms. Okay, so you are satisfying a legal obligation. So business buyers, they tend to obtain highest benefit package in relation to the marketing offering costs. So there are three type of orientations. First is a buying orientation. Buying orientation. In buying orientation, the transactions are discrete, and the buyer, it keeps the supplier at an arm's length, and there is relationship is almost adversarial, as if the supplier and buyer are always engaged in a kind of a match as to who gets the better of the other guy. The buyer's focus is short term, and it tries very hard to bargain for maximum benefits. There is lack of trust, okay? And buyer can use some tactics like multi-sourcing and commoditization. In commoditization, the buyer ensures that uh, what it needs to use in a factory or in his organization does not depend on specific feature of any particular brand. So it can source that service or that product from many sources. So this is buying, where the relation with the supplier is at arm's length, and the relationship between buyer and seller, although they are not enemies, but there is lack of camaraderie between the two. And the second orientation is procurement orientation. This is slightly better than the buying orientation in terms of the relationship shared between the buyer and sellers. Buyers also are seeking quality improvement and cost benefits. So their focus is not short term as it was in case of buying. The approach is more collaborative between buyer and supplier. And there is a small number of suppliers who work in close cooperation with the customers. The goal is to establish a win-win relationship. So buying, and after buying it is procurement, which is a purchasing orientation. The third kind of a orientation is supply management. In this, purchasing is viewed as a strategic value adding operation. The focus is on improving the value chain from raw material to the end user. And buyer, it behaves as a lean enterprise which operates under demand pull rather than supply push. Let me explain this. The buyer, it wants to remain lean. It does not want to saddle itself with the inventory which is more than what it requires for a particular time frame. And he is not swayed away by the supplier's attractive discount. Okay, you buy your 6 months requirement today and I will give you 10% discount. If supplier is trying to push you like that, the buyer does not get into this kind of a relationship. The relationship is, it treats the supplier as a strategic partner, and it makes it very clear that the buyer makes it clear that it wants to remain a lean enterprise. This is supply management. It is a further enhancement of the procurement purchasing orientation. The key point which I want to tell you is that buying to procurement is one level of improvement in terms of relationship between the buyer and the supplier, and the supply management orientation is kind of best orientation. But it also depends upon the size of the company, the nature of the business. A small company which does not have great bargaining capacity, it cannot show really supply management purchasing orientation. Or so these are three kind of a purchasing orientation which are seen in the buyer and the seller transactional process. Institutional and government markets, they are often mentioned together, but they have fundamental differences. The institutional market comprises organizations that provide care to people or contribute to society, like hospitals are there, schools are there, prisons. uh, these institutes are often private, and they are run on donations from sponsors or funds. Whereas the government market, it includes only government funded institutions, and these government market, they make purchases that help perform direct functions of the government. It forms the unusual characteristics of a government market. Government institutions have to take special care of legality of their purchase. Moreover, they have to operate under watchful eye of the public. So they have some very specific features. For example, they will have specific procurement process to avoid acquisition of money laundering, corruption. The participants of the government markets, those who are the buyers, they have to perform series of specific procurement process. So when the government institutes want to buy something, it will place a public bid or request, and in return it will get bundle of offers from sellers. The organization needs to choose from these, and one that often provides the lowest possible bid, it is selected. Other criteria could be the company's reputation in the market and superior quality. Another parameter is that there is strict contract monitoring in case of government. Since government institutions have to show their spending decisions to the public, they keep an eye on their contractors. So strict contract monitoring is there. Uh, the monitoring encompasses different stages of contract execution and requires a lot of paperwork from the sellers. The companies that work with the government, they often have special departments for these purposes. The third characteristic of government buyer market is that the sales cycles are long. The sales cycle of the government often surpasses the B2B cycle of private sector. Accepting bids and choosing between these offers, this can take several months, because there is a lot of bureaucracy which is involved, and a lot of reconciliation has to be done between various factions. Another characteristic is that there is a preference to certain sellers. The government institutions, they tend to prefer specific type of sellers. For instance, they don't often they will often offer domestic suppliers instead of foreign suppliers, or they will give preference to the supplier organization which is also owned by the government. For example, if Indian Army wants to procure something, let us say some petroleum product, it will give preference to Indian Oil Corporation or Bharat Petroleum or Hindustan Petroleum, because these three Petroleum companies are government owned companies. They will not give preference to, let us say, Reliance or SR. Okay. Another important aspect is that the role of marketing per se is very is not so significant when it comes to selling to the governments. Sellers working in governments in government market, they their marketing budget could be next to zero. So first of all, they have no need for frequent marketing activities, because they have a long-standing relationship with the buyers. Okay, so this saving which the suppliers have in terms of marketing costs, they can pass it on to the buyer, which is the government institution, in terms of lowering the price. So this is these are the characteristics of the government market, or when government buys.